Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Sarah McBride of Delaware, the first openly transgender member of Congress. Congresswoman, thank you very much for being with us. So, trans military members have already had to testify on Capitol Hill about the ban the last time the president was in office in 2019. Part of his new executive order reads, quote, "A man's assertion that he is a woman and his requirement that others honor this falsehood is not consistent with the humility and selflessness required of a service member." So that seems pretty obvious where they're going on this. What do you think the impact is?
The commander-in-chief's focus should be 100% on protecting our national security and making sure that our military is as strong as possible. And this legislative action puts at risk the careers of thousands of qualified transgender service members, individuals who in many cases have been serving this country for years, taking the same oath as their fellow service members and meeting the exact same rigorous physical and medical standards that all service members need to fulfill. This is an attempt to rid the military of thousands of qualified individuals, and it's part of a larger effort by this administration to purge the federal government of patriots who seek to serve their country. And I will say it is telling that this president's definition of patriots is pardoning over 1,000 insurrectionists who violently assault police officers, and apparently does not include patriotic transgender service members who have been ably serving this country for years.
Why do you think the DEI policies and also the issue of transgender people have been so targeted in these first opening days? And certainly this was something that the president campaigned on.
The attacks on DEI, the attacks on transgender people are part of a political strategy by this administration, a strategy of misdirection and distraction. This is a strategy as old as time. Right-wing leaders will often target vulnerable and misunderstood communities in order to distract what they're doing from what they're doing that is deeply unpopular with the American people. For instance, just last night, this administration put a massive freeze on all federal spending that is going to assist states, localities, nonprofits. This is federal funding that includes health care for low-income folks and people with disabilities. This is funding for Head Start to provide child care for young people. They are trying to distract from what they are doing with their right hand, because I guarantee you every time they bring up DEI, every single time they bring up trans people, they're trying to pick the pocket of American workers, fleece seniors, undermine unions, and destroy the programs and care that millions of Americans rely on every single day. And I'm hearing from constituents across the state of Delaware who are fearful about this federal funding freeze, and fearful that there will be massive layoffs, fearful that there will be programs that they rely on that will be eliminated. They're fearful about what the future has in store. And this is part of an effort to distract from that reality.
I mean, one of the issues with transgender people is that they have issued an order that all government documents have only two genders. So passports, for instance, we are told, can no longer have any kind of other signifying of gender than male or female.
And it appears that they are trying to eliminate the ability of transgender people, transgender men and women, to have identity documents that reflect their gender identity. And that could present a very real risk, not just for the dignity, but for the safety of transgender people. It would essentially amount to forced outing of transgender people who are trying to gain government services or travel in the case of passports. These actions have real consequences. They impose real harm on real Americans, but they are also part of an effort to distract from these very clear attacks on the economic and financial security of the American people that are happening at the very same time. And we have to be crystal clear about how all of these attacks, how all of these efforts connect and are part of this administration's larger strategy to gut programs and care and services for the American people.
I know we don't have much more time, but I know you've been very active on the movement to try to do something for Dreamers in Delaware, and they are obviously at risk with this crackdown on immigration.
Absolutely. The draconian efforts that we've seen by this administration to separate families, to deport our neighbors, it includes Dreamers. It includes people who have been living in this country for years, growing up, paying taxes, doing hard work every single day across our country. And we have to be very, very clear that Dreamers, unfortunately, are not excluded from this administration's draconian policies that'll separate families and undermine our economy.